Hello, peoples of the internet. I return to my RR2 GT Turbo with this engine. Well, it's a 262 horsepower 924cc engine, which is heavily turbo to make 262 horsepower. Now, it needs loads of cooling. It's not that reliable. The weight's actually okay, and I think I can do better overall. So I'm going to, instead of redeveloping this engine or anything like that, I'm going to just design an entirely new engine, which I feel I can do. Now, can we actually fit an inline 6 in? I'm not going to use an inline 6, I just want to see if it'll fit. And oh no, I've messed with the engine now as it is. Nah, I need a new engine because it's messing around with the engine that's it's got if I select that. I know I should know better. This can be named 900 Silly Turbo, for lack of a better name. I've put 9,000. Oh well. Can't be bothered to change that. Now, can it actually fit an inline 6? So that's what I'm wondering. Yes, it can. Not a very big inline 6, mind. But we'll go with a V6. We could go with a V12. No, we couldn't. It won't fit. I did build a vehicle with a V12 once, though. Now, how big can we make it before it doesn't fit in the car? Not too big. Come on, I need a stupidly huge engine in the back of my tiny-ish car. I mean, as long as it's light, it doesn't matter, does it? Do we have weight for this? 44.3. 55.4. How about 4 valve per cylinder? That's 153 for cost, but 61.6 kilograms versus 50. So we'll go with a single overhead cam to save a little weight and 4 valve per cylinder. To be honest, with this number of cylinders, I don't think we need any more. And go with some of the higher end parts around here, because they're just better. It's a 2.1 litre V6, yes. I think it's actually slightly bigger than the one they had in the Jaguar X-Type back in the day, and that's a saloon car thing where you can generally fit a V6. Now, what colour do we want the engine? Because I'm boring, I think I'll paint it silver. I don't know, green looks nice. Yeah. So, we want a naturally aspirated engine. I know I had some troubles with turbos before. We could carburettor it, but I don't see much point in that. Twin is probably fine here, but then throttle per cylinder isn't that much more. So we can just go with all this high-end stuff. I mean, as long as it's not ridiculously expensive, we can afford it. Adjust this so we have a good balance of economy, and we don't want that too high because it adds a lot of cost to the engine. Now, I think we have dual exhausts, and we want a smaller set of dual exhausts. Set this up for refinement. I mean, you can get better airflow with that, but it's throttled by the mufflers anyway, so there's not really much point. And we have a 65.9 horsepower engine. Just make sure it's tested properly. And we'll adjust this. See what we can get out of it. Oh. I feel like I should be getting more power out of this somehow. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go with dual overhead cam. How is the weight? 115. We're not actually putting that much weight on. Even with the fancy dual overhead cam, we're only putting on about 20 kilos to the engine, which isn't too bad for its size. Yeah, dual overhead cam, we're pulling a lot more power out of it now. That doesn't help. Oh, yes. 251. Okay, that's ruined the power. We can get 251 out of this, but I must beat my other engine, I feel. And that makes it too large. I'm not really sure what this can handle in terms of RPM anyway. It expects 9,000. Does that help? No, it was worth a try. So, can we rev it to 9,000 without any problems? We are apparently having compression problems and valve float problems, which is interesting. There we go, that's fixed it, I think. Not the valve float, though. We'll have to do something about this. But what will I do about it? Now, can we adjust that a little without really harming economy too much? There we go. Actually, no, I'm being stupid. I'm adjusting the wrong things. I don't want to adjust that. On a previous engine, I have managed to get more power out of it by messing with the ignition timing. Like, so if I lower that, say, to about here, and then see how adjusting the compression affects that. 254, which I believe is a little better than we were getting. You can also somewhat lower the RPM if you get it right here. 8,900, I mean, I know it's not a lot, but it has lowered the RPM just by doing that little trick there. And then if we adjust the compression again, we should be able to get most of our power back, but not all of it, disappointingly. Now, I want this thing to have loads of power, but we are very limited for space. So, I think we'll have to, by some means, make a 2.5 litre if this PC stops lagging. So we'll just adjust these two until I can have a bore bias, because that's good for revving it quite highly. Come on. Nah, that's not going to work, is it? Not as well as I want it to. I know adding weight to the rear of the car is not necessarily the best option, but it makes me power. Oh yes. It's only 122 still. I've not done a terrible job for weight. Have I changed the header material? I think I might have. Aluminium, yes. Now, is mechanical injection any better? I suspect it's not, but it might be worth a try. Mess with this again. It was about 84 or something before when we found the balance. Can we make 200? Not in this state. Still wants to rev to 9,000 though, which isn't really an option. So if we adjust that and see if we can use this again. Seems to be topping out at 298. Maybe the exhaust can help. Yeah, helped a lot. Does 100 work on there? I mean, I'm just trying different things now, see what I can get out of it. No. Makes over 300 like that, but there's more power to be had. Even with messed up compression there, it seems making over 300. Oh yes. I've had to put a huge engine in here, but I have beaten the old engine with a naturally aspirated aspiration. I feel like I really need VVL though. It's much better for adjusting the RPM. than having to mess with the compression and cam profile. Like, look, now where's the power gone? It makes 310 if it's revving high enough, but it doesn't seem to want to rev this high. The difficulty of using a V6, I guess. Now, the bottom end parts, I'll just try messing with things. See if I can get something to work. Interesting. Forged doesn't seem to have as much of a problem there. As you'll see, everything goes really orangey and then it's just yellow there, which means it's not quite suffering as much. That's interesting. Now, we could build it with push rods, but we need the power, I think. Performance intake, that gives us some power, but it makes servicing more expensive and stuff. Oh, am I seeing this? 312? The number is 88 as well. Such a magic number. Yeah, now the compression's wrong, apparently. Now, everything's hitting its RPM limit, it seems. But just at what point is that RPM limit? Okay, 8400, we might still be able to make 300 horsepower with the correct tuning. We don't have much in the way of headers though, do we? Could try direct acting overhead cam. I'm not expecting to get anywhere with this, though primitive head technology, but it's worth a try. Anything's worth a try, isn't it? Yeah. 220 was it or something? It does make decent power, but it can't match the dual overhead cam for power. I think I might try mechanical injection, because this stuff can change everything about the engine, not just the power it makes. It can sometimes change how high it revs to and things. So it's worth a try. We're making a lot of power with mechanical injection at least. We can say that. We're making as much power as I would want to, but it's still suffering the RPM problem of it being too high. And I mean, there's not much I can do. I lower the cam profile, I lose loads of my power. Unless there is one thing I can try. I don't really like the idea, but if we go with two brilliant carburetors, the RPM is always staying the same, it seems. No matter what technology I'm using, it always seems to want to stay the same. Now, can I use this too? That just wants to make it rev higher now. $304, did I see? Yes. Okay. This engine's being difficult. We can't go VVL on this, can we? We do that? No. Right, back to injection. Throttle per cylinder gets us 1 horsepower, but we pay for it because we need it and all that. $315? New heights of power here. Now, I think what I have to do is just lower the RPM. That way I'm still making 300 horsepower. I don't like just chopping it off at the end like that, but there's not really another way I can do it. Oh, I can get a bit more torque that way, though. That's always handy. I think that'll do. Just give one last check of the exhaust. And we're making 300. I'm happy enough with that. I mean, it's not the best engine in the world, and the power does just randomly cut off at the end, but with such a tightly packed engine, and without turbos, there's not really much I could do. But it's just so annoying me. I mean, I can't really think of it why like this. No, it's annoying me so much, I have to just go back and mess with stuff until it works. So, how are we going to lower it? I mean, maybe if we just change the bore and stroke round, maybe I'm missing a really obvious trick here. Not having a 3.6 litre. Might have a 3 litre though. Now you see here, being a much larger engine now, it just seems to naturally rev lower. There we go, 2999. It's a huge engine, but the weight, I don't think it's that bad, no. We're still only looking at about 25 kilograms more than the inline 4, despite being a huge V6. Now I don't think 8400 is going to be low enough to rev, is it? No. This engine does not like to rev, does it? At all. Not anymore. The V6 I used to know used to rev all the time. But it's not that engine anymore. Okay, I think I have a plan. I've messed with this enough as an NA engine, I think I'll have to try and turbo it. There's not really a way around it. So what I'll have to do is just go full waste-derived kind of 1.5 litre mini V6, I guess, and then I'll turbo this. And I'll return when I've finished adjusting all the turbo stuff. Okay, so I've done some adjustment with the turbo and various other bits, and I've got power, but it's a slightly laggy power, so we're going to have to make the engine larger. I feel that's the way to do it. We're moving up to 2 litres now, and seeing how that works with the turbocharger. If I can ever get this to work how I want it to, since it's lagging like crazy. There we go. Okay, so the turbos have failed me, so I'm just going to try a 1.8 litre V8, I think, see how this works out. Okay, so from a naturally aspirated 1.8 litre V8, I've managed to achieve 244 horsepower. I've done this by adjusting the, fuel mixture and the compression. Hopefully I can adjust a few things and get even more out of it, but it's not looking like I would be able to. Okay, so I think I've finally got an engine I'm happy with. It's not as powerful as the last engine, as you'll see. It's only got 250 horsepower, but the economy is half decent on it actually this time, and it weighs 120 kilos, which isn't that much more than before. And it's a V8, so I guess it's more prestigious. Well, the material cost, you'll see, is $4,017.20. The reason for that is I had 244 horsepower, and I really wanted 250. And it seemed, after I'd adjusted everything I possibly could, that was the only way I was going to do it. So I turned the quality up to 15 on there, and it just about got me 250. I know I've probably gone overboard, but I really wanted to make 250 horsepower, so it's not that far behind my other engine. It's also got 200 newton meters of torque, so it's kind of amazing just how precise it is. I mean, it makes 4/5 the torque as it does power precisely. Now here we'll see we have the ignition timing. If I adjust that, it goes up to 96. The reason I've done that is I wanted to keep it down to 9500 so it's not hitting the rev limit really hard, and if I raise that, you'll see everything begins to explode. I mean, it revs stupidly high as it begins with. And then I've also adjusted the fuel mixture. I mean, I could have tried to keep the economy, but if that was the case, it would have been about 10-15 horsepower down on what I've actually got now. And the compression, all this is just adjusted to match. I mean, if I mess it up, it will change everything. The economy, though, you'll see 852. It's not that bad. I mean, I did some messing around with turbos, and they were in the 900s for a similar amount of power. Admittedly, I wasn't in the best state for tuning them, since I kept messing up. Also, it is now a flat plane engine, I believe, if we look over here. I was just trying everything to get more power. I mean, they seem to be largely the same for power, but flat plane seems a little more interesting, since it's the only exclusive V8 kind of type, should I say. So I found that interesting. It's quite a wide engine, actually, mind. And that's what we've got for our engine. We might have to cheap out elsewhere, though, to support it, since it's a very expensive engine. You'll see we're finally getting 12.3 miles per gallon, though. Better than we had before, it must be said. And we can make a little more top speed, actually, than before, it seems. It just jumped up, as you'll see, which is pretty good, I think. Now, what have we got in the way of tyres? We've got semi-slicks on here. Now, I think I'm going to change the design a little, since it's now going to be a proper high-performance car. We're not just going to stick the best tyres we can on and call it a day. We're going to actually give it wider tyres. As much as I don't want to flare these out to a stupid level, I feel we need those wide tyres, since it's going to become a proper performance car now, and that's what we're going to leave it at. Where were we with the transmission? There we go. That seems to be set up okay. So, no, we don't want that. I think we'll have 245, 265. Seems like decent tyre balance. The widest we can fit, front and rear. And I think we'll go with sport compound instead. A little cheaper, a little more usable every day, even having semi-slicks on it. Now, how this engine is for cooling, I'm not sure, but I'll have to double check to make sure everything works fine. Now, we can change those to like 15s perhaps and get wider tyres. Some of these old cars are like that. Modern cars you can have massive run flats on, not so much in the 90s. Not according to this game, at least. Got the best brakes we can get, they should still be okay. Aero should still be all okay. Engine cooling, though, we need nowhere near as much cooling for the engine, so we can just use a lot more on the brakes, which is useful. I say nowhere near, it still needs a fair amount of cooling, but not as much as the old turbo unit. You see it's packed in there quite tightly. But despite all its extra displacement, it's not that much bigger, and it's naturally aspirated as well with almost as much power, so I think for that we're doing quite well. Now, the suspension, all this can stay the same, but we'll just readjust it for comfort, since the weight balance may have changed a little. Yeah, I think it's a little heavier because of the engine, and it's also probably affected the weight balance, yeah. 64% at the rear now, which is perhaps too much, but then if the aerodynamics and suspension's there to take it, it might not handle half bad. I mean, Porsches are rear engined after all, and they have large flat sixes and things in the back. Now, economy, I think we need to adjust this, hopefully for better economy. And we're not done well there, have we? Still getting 14 though. 0 to 60 is just 6.3 seconds now. It doesn't have much torque, does it? It needs its tight gears, or it's just not got the torque to get moving. I think we'll raise that to 150 just to make sure you have the extra space. Now, where's the point where acceleration starts taking a hit? Because if I can make the gears long enough, but just long enough to not really affect the acceleration. You know, I thought being a naturally aspirated engine would be free of the turbo problems, but it looks like we're not. We are getting 14 miles per gallon though. It's not often you think of a turbo engine of a similar spec to a naturally aspirated engine being the less economical thing, but that's what's happened here. The NA engine is just a better setup block in general. So what we're going to do now is take it round the Nürburgring after I've just checked for certain the suspension is set up how I wanted it to be, and let's see how it does. Okay, so the car set a time of 9 minutes and 1 second. It's below everything on the leaderboard by over a minute, so it's not impressive in terms of lap times. Nor could I really hope for it to be, though. It's a car from 1990 and the slowest car there is a Corvette Z06, so that's to be expected. People are still seeing it as a supercar and a hypercar, though. Also, my MR2 has gone a little bit upmarket now. It's a $50,000 car. It's pricey, but people are seeing it as a supercar, eh? I mean, for 1990, 250 horsepower is a fair amount. It's not a bad power output even today. And the old turbo MR2 would have to compete with this because it's still more powerful than the naturally aspirated model. Also, if we look at the power curve on this, we'll see it's somewhat like a Ferrari engine. You have to work for the power because it only comes on very, very late. I mean, I would have wanted it to make power there, but there's no real way to get it to do that. It's just the way I've built the engine for ultra high power. Maybe if I was building it as a lower power engine, I could have afforded to compromise somewhere, but I've really pushed this as far as it'll go with 1990s technology. Today, I could probably get about 260, maybe 270 out of it, but in 1990, this is really on the technological limits. The problem with that, obviously, is it's going to need a lot more repairs when something goes wrong, inevitably. Mind, having said that, it's not an unreliable engine actually. According to the game, it's still got 77.4, which is a lot better than my last engine. A lot of the reason I'm able to do all this stuff with the engine though is the fuel type. I've actually used decent fuel this time, so it's not going to explode on terrible fuel which it can't handle. If we do go on low quality, yeah, the engine will explode. But it's a high performance race engine, you expect that. So, with this, I actually have a car I'm happy with, and an engine I'm happy with. And with that, goodbye until another day.